All right, we're so excited to have Chris Salerno join us today. Hey, Chris, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be on here with you guys.
Awesome.
The first question we want to ask you is, how did you get started, especially so young, in real estate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually, believe it or not, I get asked that question a lot. But I started out selling single-family real estate, and I was a broker. Very quickly gained a success track record, which landed me I was always business-minded. So from there, that landed me in the position of running and operating the number one team in the Carolinas, making 46% profitable in 1 year compared to their 3 years of being stagnant.
Fantastic.
And I really sat down with myself and I draw the picture of my goals, and I realized, brokeraging real estate, you're always hustling. You're hustling for that next deal. And I mean, I was doing very well, built up a great business very quickly. But from there I said, well, to reach my goal, brokeraging real estate was just not on that path. So I decided to study between 2008 and 2012 what asset class was the strongest among others. Because me personally, I do not think we'll have a recession like that. That was a recession. I think we'll have a market transition, but not a recession. But I studied it, and the strongest asset class was multifamily because everyone needs a place to live. And I love it because it's a necessity. You can't create an app, as you tech guys know, and take away multifamily.
You cannot.
It's always going to be there, and everyone loves the amenities these apartment complexes have. So I said, that's where I'm going to focus. And then I started focusing and reading and listening to podcasts like your guys' very heavily. And that's where I came across my coach, who has close to $1 billion under management. And I hired him, and I was off to the races after that.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned a few good things in there, a coach,
Yes.
having a mentor of some sort. How key was that to you accelerating rapidly?
Oh my gosh, that was that was key. I mean, I used to coach. I used to give small seminars to salespeople to teach them how to sell a product or anything that they're trying to sell. But the biggest thing I realized getting into this business is I need to add value to myself of rewarding myself with a coach to limit my risk. And when it comes to these large apartment complexes, there's a lot of risk. Just like we were talking about before this, $1 million hard day one for earnest money. It's a lot of risk. So if you back out, you lose it all. So I wanted a coach to limit my risk. And with his network, I was able to tap into it as well. And within 7 months, we accumulated a little over 40 million worth of real estate and 364 units just within 7 months, and looking to grow rapidly.
Fantastic. Adam and I actually met through a coach as well. So we
Very nice.
love the idea of people getting coached because it helps accelerate your progress.
Correct. And a lot of people ask me, they said, well, should I get a coach? And I said, well, that's a great question. And I'm on Bigger Pockets a lot. And I say, sit down with yourself first. What are your goals? Is your goals to have a huge company, or is your goals just to make 10 to 20,000 a month passively? If it's 10 to 20,000 a month passively, you can take that money and, read books, listen to podcasts, and get there. But if your goal is to have over 100,000 a month, or, $1 million a month, get a coach, and get a coach that has your same vision and your same goal as well, but is a lot further on that path, so they can just go ahead and shine a light behind them and you can follow them. That's the way I see it.
I love that. And success leaves clues. So
That's right.
It's easy for you to eat those breadcrumbs up on your path to success.
That is right.
Now, we want to ask you about that risk reduction. You being from the single family space, an expert, I would gather that you are.
Yes.
And now I'd consider you an expert in the multifamily space.
Thank you.
What are the differences in the risk for a single family investor versus a multifamily investor?
Great question. Now, when we talk single family, are we talking flips? Or are we talking buy and hold?
Good question. Could you answer both?
Yeah, I can answer both. So let's talk with flips. Flips, there's some big risk in flips. When I left the flip, I did flip a couple houses here and there because the money was burning a hole in my pocket. But when you do flips, you got to have a great contractor. I had a contractor that took 90 grand from me.
Wow.
Ran off. Yeah,
Ouch.
it ran off. But I'm still profiting 18,000 off the deal. So I'm
Whoa.
always picking a good deal, but I'm not happy he took the money. Anyway, so when it comes to that, you gotta really go deep with your contractors. You gotta know your property. You gotta know your numbers. You gotta make sure everything's lined up. So there's a lot of risk involved with that, and how long you're gonna hold the property for. If any worst case scenario, can you hold the property for a year with your income that you have or your savings that you have saved if you're a full-time flipper? So there's risk involved in that. When it comes to buy and hold, the risk is that if you throw a tenant in there, the tenant doesn't pay, the tenant trashes the property, they just decide to just leave overnight, and now you're stuck with everything. So I think in any real estate transaction you're doing, or any career you're going down, or any path you go down in real estate, there's always going to be risk involved.
Absolutely.
And now when it comes to multifamily, you're dealing with larger numbers, you're dealing with larger profits. So the larger the profit, the larger the risk. But that's why you have to take very calculated risk. I actually bought my first property with no money down. I took a big risk by having a personal friend of mine, who's also a client of ours, give me a loan, because you cannot raise for the earnest money. He gave me a personal loan of $160,000 that I put down hard day one. My first deal ever. So yes,
That's a good friend.
Yeah, a very good friend. And he also put 60,000 on top of that in the deal. So,
and he's a smart friend.
Yes, very smart friend. And he had the confidence that he knew that I would get the job done. I told him this was my first deal. I gave him everything, but he had the confidence in myself that I would get the job done, because he knew that I knew real estate. He knew I knew how to make money in real estate. And he took that risk, and I took a big risk. So when it comes to it, there's risk in everything, and compared to single family and multifamily. Some people may not have the appetite to take a large risk, like putting $1 million down to purchase these large multifamily properties. So it definitely will test your risk tolerance, what route you go, if it's single family flip, single family buy and hold, or multifamily.
Excellent. So I know, Chris, that you love to add value to people.
Always.
And I feel like that is a component to your success.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about some ways you do that, and maybe share that with some folks who are trying to figure out how to do something similar, but they're not quite sure what that looks like?
Yeah, great question. Well, I feel like it's good to give back my knowledge, and I want to leave a legacy. So my goal is to become a billionaire. And when I reach that goal, I want to make sure I leave a legacy on the way. And in my opinion, not just giving my money to a charity, because the way I think it, if I gave a certain amount to a charity, the next day they're going to still be begging for money. And who's managing that money? Where's that money going? So my thing is if I can leave a legacy, and how I leave a legacy is how many people's family tree I can help become financially free. And that's with giving my knowledge. That's with giving my energy back. I don't know if you can feel it, but my energy, I love real estate. I have a passion for it. And just, I'm on Bigger Pockets. I have it pulled up on my screen and just helping people out. And some people said, well, I went on your website and I don't have that amount to invest. And I said, well, we're not talking about you investing in my deals. We're talking about how I can help you. By just adding value, answering some questions, guiding them through the path so they don't make a mistake. So my big thing is just giving back. I know tomorrow I'm having a gentleman shadow me all day because he just wants to see a day in a life of myself. And I'm not charging him free of cost. He can sit there between calls. He can, ask me any questions he wants to. But it's just another way for me to give back. And if I can change his whole family tree, where his kids said, my great-great-grandfather invested in real estate, and that's why we can go to college, or that's why we can do whatever we can do now, then that means I left a legacy, and that means I added value to someone. So that's my goal.
Yeah, that's excellent.
That is a huge goal. And because we love the idea of goals on the Tech Guys Who Invest podcast, how did you come up with the idea of a billionaire? It sounds almost so intuitive why somebody would say, I want to be a billionaire, but you speak of it so intentionally that I believe that you've really thought this through. So I would love to explore that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm a big, I write journals every day from my coach said I needed to, so I started to. So I'm following his footsteps. So I write a daily journal. At the end of my journal, I say, Chris, you're going to be a billionaire. And I have sticky notes everywhere here saying it. I have it on the back of my phone. So I'm embedding it in my head. I picture myself in the house I want, picture myself in the car I want, because I'm bringing that energy. I believe in laws of attraction. So really,
Yep.
it was just, I knew that money bought everything. Money buys everything. I grew up not in a very wealthy family. I grew up where I was the man of the house at a very young age, and I knew that if we had money, that would fix that situation I was in. And I just saw what money can do, because I think the more money you have, the more people you can also help, by creating a coaching program, by paying extra money to market that coaching program to help more people to leave a legacy. So that's where that all came from. And then, I don't want to give credit to the doubters, but I love those doubters that just doubt me on it, because it just fuels my fire to work even harder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love how you're a young guy who's clearly already achieved quite a high level of success by most people's standards, and I can totally feel your energy
Thank you.
and know that you are going to achieve massive success. I'm sure of it. I knew that when I met you in
Thank you. I
Orlando a couple
appreciate
weeks ago. I just got it right away.
Thank you.
And that absolutely fascinates me. And I want to share at least a little bit of that with our listeners, because most people are not wired that way. What do you think? I wonder where that comes from. Have you thought about that before?
I have. And I was actually talking to my dad last night. So my father had a stroke 2 months ago, and he's still in the hospital. And
Sorry
his
to hear
brain's
that.
not.
Sorry, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. His brain's still not all there. And I was talking to him last night, and I was just saying, my apple fell far from the tree. Compared to our family tree, my apple rolled down the hill and hopped on a boat and went somewhere. It fell far. And I said, the other two siblings I have, they're just not wired like the way I am. And I said, I don't think it's how you were brought up. I don't think it's it's something that's just you're born into, I believe, because I've always had the mentality of, okay, I'm very competitive. So I've always had that competitive mentality. No matter what I'm doing, if it's the game of Monopoly, I'm going to try to do whatever it takes to win. And I think it was just that competitiveness where, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. The biggest thing a lot of individuals have is waking up early. As an entrepreneur and a real estate entrepreneur, you don't have anyone to tell you to get at the office. It's up to you to get at the office. It's solely your accountability to hold yourself accountable. So, you see those Facebook and Instagram things where people have 5 or 10 different, alarms set, right? Well, why set all those alarms? I set my alarm and I put my phone in the bathroom. Why? Because mentally I'm going to get up, walk to the bathroom, and when I hit dismiss, I'm hopping straight in the shower to wake my butt up. That's what people need to do. They need to hold themselves accountable by doing those little tiny things. Don't have the phone next to your bed. Have it far away where you have to get up. And by the time you're up, you're telling your brain, okay, well, I'm already up, time to start the day. I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning, and every morning I wake up around 5 a.m. now, and that's how I do it. But I think it was just the competitiveness that I was always willing to do whatever it takes. And I was trying to push myself to the limit. And I feel I have a long way to go till I even try to get close to my limit. And that's the drive that I have, is that I'm trying to reach that limit. And who knows if I'll ever reach it in my lifetime.
You got to keep pushing to figure out where that limit is, right?
Correct. I just posted something on LinkedIn. Someone posted a great statement. And I said to him, I said, no one knows their actual limit. The biggest failure in individuals is them doubting themselves. It's not them failing. It's them doubting in themselves. So who knows your limit? We were talking about $100 million deal, or just before this. Who knows your limit? You got to push and push and push and keep pushing and just never give up. And that's how I feel that I need to do. And I don't think I'll reach my limit because I'll just keep moving it and moving it.
Love it. Now, you mentioned that you didn't grow up being surrounded by this type of mentality and this
No.
information. What would be a resource that you would say to somebody, read this or listen to this because this is what changed my life, or this is what changed my mentality? What resource would you point to?
Great question. Believe it or not, I've only started reading books about 3 years ago. And the reason why is because throughout my whole younger days of my life, I've been called dyslexic. I've been in special reading classes. And from there, they're putting that into your brain at a young age. So you're going to think that. So I just started reading very, very heavily. Now I'm shocked. I could read a 300-page book in like 4 days now, 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
And I enjoy reading. I love reading because it's something I'm reading about, which is real estate, and I have a passion for it. I would say Think and Grow Rich was a wonderful book. Also watch The Men Who Built America, because that's who founded America. And just watching that on Netflix, I have to watch that around 4 to 5 times. And they came out with a new show too, The Food That Built America. But The Men Who Built America with Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, J.D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, all those gentlemen, just the way they did business back then. They didn't have technology, but the way they did business and thought of business was just mind-boggling. So I would say those would be great resources for anyone. And at a very young age, I didn't grow up in a wealthy family. I grew up supporting, my family at a very young age. But there's a neighborhood down the street, and I visited when I was in Orlando, Adam. There's a neighborhood down the street that was a gated neighborhood. And I remember as a young kid, I used to ride my bike through I'd sneak under the gate and ride my bike through the gated neighborhood, because they were, I'd say, $600,000 to $800,000 houses back there. And I would tell myself, one day I'll be in one of those houses. And I just had that drive and that mentality to get there, and to do whatever it takes. And that's one reason why I think I succeeded in selling real estate was it was a 100% commission base, and it was determined on your work ethic. And I knew I would outwork anyone. And I'm still willing to outwork anyone.
That's awesome. So real estate is the vehicle that you chose, and you talked a little bit about how you got into that.
Yeah.
How do you think people who aren't in real estate but work a regular job, guys like Kevin and me, benefit from investing in real estate passively? So a lot of our listeners are interested in passively investing in real estate deals. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you see there?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We have a lot of investors that invest alongside of us, QC Capital Group, that are high executives. Some are tech engineers and some are engineers, and they enjoy their job. I have some people here in Charlotte, North Carolina, that work for Bank of America, and they told me, they said, I don't want to leave because I enjoy my job. And there's nothing wrong with that, but
Nope.
they want to build wealth.
Sure.
And being rich is different than being wealthy. It's totally different. Anyone can be rich with money and flaunt money around, but being wealthy is a totally different category. And they want to build wealth by having a second, third, fourth, or fifth string of passive income on a monthly basis, where they know their money is one, being taken care of very well, and also growing faster than it would in the stock market. So I think it's a great avenue for people who enjoy their full-time job. They have that extra income that extra savings just sitting around, or their 401k just sitting around, where they can invest in these type of vehicles where they can actually make more money in the stock market. They can reap the tax benefits, and then they can actually go by and say, I own a part of that. And they can enjoy what their hard work and what they've achieved by investing in these larger deals and receiving that monthly passive income.
I love it. So there's the tax benefit, there's the monthly income, and there's also
Correct.
to build wealth. All the reasons that we would suggest why people should invest in real estate. Now, if somebody pushes back and says, I prefer the stock market because it feels more passive. What would be something that you would say to that type of an objection?
Great question. So I would just say I'd tell them a couple stories, and here's one story. That very good friend of mine who gave me a loan to purchase my first property. He lost around. I didn't tell his wife, but he lost around $1 million this year. 1
Whoa.
million in the stock market overnight.
Wow.
And I told him, I said, that's a lot of money, and not, only a certain amount of individuals can, be able to still, be okay and still live with losing that much. And fortunately, you're one. But your stockbroker got paid when he bought and sold that stock. I don't get paid until all the investors get paid. That's how it's structured. And to me, I don't like stockbrokers. And I'll say that I don't like them because they get paid all these fees off of people. And I don't think it's right. I think it should be structured as how I structured our company, where we get paid last. Our investors get paid first, we get paid last. And that's how it should be. And one, that gives the operator of multifamily the incentive to make that property perform at its peak ability.
Absolutely.
So all the investors get paid. So when it comes to the stock market, it's so up and down. I was just watching today, stocks the highest it's ever been, records high. But tomorrow it may be down. When these stockbrokers get on the TV and say, "Well, I'm selling this stock to buy this stock," that's insider trading, in my opinion. They're going ahead and they're trying to manipulate the public to go ahead and sell that stock, and then they own this other stock and they go buy that stock and it goes up and then they sell. So I'm not a big fan of the stock market. I will not invest in the stock market. I will strictly invest in real estate moving forward for the rest of my life. Plus I can give a building to my grandkids or my daughter and my wife. If anything happened to me, they have a large portfolio of buildings that cash flow on a monthly basis that they won't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we know a lot of people who just quote invest. They just put money into a 401k rather blindly. They sort of pick a recommended option where they may have several options, and they say, hey, if you plan to retire and in this time frame, you can choose this one. If it's this time frame, you can choose that one.
Yeah.
Really don't know much at all about what's behind that package, and they just allocate a percentage of their money every check into that. They don't know what it is, and then they'll have some sort of an opinion that is not as risky as investing in real estate. And I can't imagine that.
You are 100% correct. They are guided, in my opinion, through their employment or employer. They're guided saying, look, this is who we recommend. I know someone who's extremely close to me. They've been working for a company for over 41 years.
Wow.
In November, 41 years. And they only have $163,000 in their 401k.
Oh, wow.
Now, does that make sense? That does
No.
not make sense. And the person that they're investing with is the person that company recommended. And she's a newbie. She's not, she's just putting it in different type of stocks, mutual funds. And I'm sure she's getting 1% a year on that money. But to me, that's not right. That's, I want to leave a legacy, and how I leave a legacy, if I can help your listeners, if I can help anyone who follows me change their family tree to become financially stable. Unless you're Warren Buffett and you're a day trader and stock like the back of your hand, I give it to you. And I have some stockbrokers that reach out to me, but I even have stockbrokers that are investing in our deals and not investing in the stock market.
Nice.
That is an interesting tidbit there. Why wouldn't they be investing in the stock market?
They're taking everything out and they're investing alongside of us in multifamily because one, they know I know how to find a good deal, and I know multifamily like the back of my hand, and I have a passion for it. But what's also crazy is that company has to do a background research on myself before they can even invest.
As they should, right?
But for sure.
We're not doing that in the stock market.
Correct.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
they're not playing in the stock market, and they're gonna go ahead and diverse their assets into the multifamily space because they know it's a necessity. They know that overnight it's not just gonna go, it's not gonna vanish, and everyone needs a place to live.
Absolutely. Now, you talked earlier on about the recession versus a transition. Can
Yes.
you dive into that? What the difference is, in your opinion, of the between a recession and a transition?
Yeah, great question. And I just did a podcast with a lender on this, who is a lender out in LA, and he says that he's not seeing any signs of anything right now, which is good. But the biggest thing is in 08 to 2012, if you were a cat walking down the road, they'd give you a cat house for free. And what I mean by that is if you just had a pulse, they would give you a loan, and they would give you stated income loans, which you would go to the lender and say, hey, I make 1.2 million a year. I want to buy this $1 million house. They say, okay, wonderful. Here's your loan. And that's it. And that's what toppled everything. I think the commercial market was extremely strong. A lot of people came out of 08, 2012 billionaires. And I know a couple. So I think it was still very strong. What hurt everyone was the single family industry, where
Absolutely.
they would give those stated loans out, and it got so low that even some state or some cities that or probably didn't even recover. So I would say that was a recession. That was extremely bad. A lot of people lost a lot of money. A lot of people over leveraged because they would just give those stated loans out. I think with the criteria of getting a single family loan these days is very hard. I hear a lot of people complaining, well, they want this document, they want this document, they need this. And it's because of what happened in 08 and 2012. The government can't bail the banks out anymore. Government bailed the banks out back then. And so from now, they're a lot stricter going into, possibly this next correction. But I think we're at a very strong peak. No matter what, if you look at the past 40, 50 years, we're still on a rise. So it may level out here or there. Speaking to a lot of lenders and economists, in the Carolinas especially, I feel that the Carolinas and Orlando, some of the major job growth cities, will still be very strong. So I don't really see a big issue. I kind of want it to happen, a market correction, because that's when we can buy everything pennies on a dollar.
Yeah, you and me both.
We
know.
want people to succeed, but if it doesn't, we'd be happy in that
Correct.
position.
Yeah. And it's how you see a deal. You can see a deal in a good market and in a bad market, but you're hearing a lot of people, and I'm actually chatting with a guy in December. He has 9 figures in the bank sitting there.
Wow.
9 figures.
He's waiting for blood in the streets then, I'm guessing.
He's waiting for blood in the streets. Yep. And you can see this by just reviewing all of very wealthy individuals right now. And I mean wealthy billionaires, that they're all cash heavy right now. They're all having a lot of cash in the bank waiting for blood in the streets to come. So who knows? It may come, it may not. I think we will have a market correction where everything will probably level out. But I do not think we'll have what 08 and 2012 will see. Not at all.
Well, that's good. It's good that they do have these systems in place and the legislature to help prevent something of that nature happening again. You
Very
talk a
much
lot
so.
about the billionaires and the lenders that you're learning from. How would you recommend somebody with a day job start connecting with them? Because I think that those are great resources for you to learn from.
Yeah. Well, a couple things to connect with them. I would say a lender, you can connect with any lender you want because they want your business. So I would say get on Bigger Pockets. I'm sure a lot of your listeners and attendees are on Bigger Pockets because they invest and they follow you guys. Get on Bigger Pockets and then start networking. Go to networking events, meetups that will have lenders there. And just start telling them, what you're interested in. My biggest thing is you can't do this alone. This is a relationship business, and you have to do it as a team. For a lot of people, I would say your first couple deals, invest passively. Invest alongside great operators who are going to that you feel comfortable investing alongside of, and really stay very close and see how the operations ran, and then go ahead and hop into your own deals. But I would say get your feet wet and understand how the operations ran, and then hop into your own deals. But yeah, you can reach lenders on LinkedIn, Bigger Pockets. They're a dime a dozen when it comes to lenders.
Yeah, I think that's some really solid advice,
Yeah.
especially about passive investing and watching how the operators work. That's
Yeah,
great.
very much so. And I tell a lot of people that who ask, I say start out passive investing a couple times, really understand how the operation of it works, because I treat each property like its own business, which it is.
Right.
It is its own business. So you have to have the business sense. You have to know how to make the business profitable. So the investors will walk away with a profit of their investment. When to reach out billionaires, I chat with a couple billionaires, believe it or not, on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's a big one, and on Instagram. But the biggest thing is, I'll reach out to them, and if they don't say anything, it's not going to hurt my feelings. But I see what I can do to add value to them. One billionaire who lives in Miami, he designed the Porsche Design Tower. I saw some article about it, so I screenshotted it and sent it over to him, and I'd say, hey, I just wanted to let you know this is what's happening. So if any of your investors, ask you, you're aware. And he says, thank you. He says, I already know what happened. He says, this is what happened. Do you mind commenting on there that this is what happened? So I did, and I screenshot it, sent it back to him, and he said, thank you. And he said, if you're ever down in South Florida, let's have coffee. So
I'm coming to South Florida next week.
I said, I just have a flight tonight. I'll be down there. But it's adding value, just like we discussed. See how we can add value to other people. And when it comes to billionaires, yes, they have everything. They have all the money. They can do whatever they want, but find a way to add value to them. And they'll remember that. And then don't ask for anything in return. Because they'll always remember that they added value to you.
Guys, that's just the best advice. It's really, really excellent advice for people who want to go far fast. What you just said, I've seen it from you and other very successful people who do that. They just add value to people, ask for nothing in return. And it comes back to them many times over.
Oh, it does. And don't ask for anything in return. And the biggest thing is, when I meet someone, the first thing I think of is what can I do to add value to this person? What can I do to add value? And as I get to know them, anything that comes up that I know I can add value to, I automatically say it. Well, I know so-and-so that lives in your or lives in your city that it would be a great contact. Have you met him before? Okay, well, I'll do an email introduction. I just had an investor who actually, Adam, the event we were at, reached out to me and needs to refinance the single family homes and take that equity out and put it into multifamily. And he knew I had a single family background, so he asked who it was, and I did the email introduction, and now he has money to invest in multifamily. So that's, it's just trying to add value to everyone.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to step back to something we were talking about a minute ago regarding the market correction, and ask if there's anything you're doing to prepare for that. Strategically, what are you doing so that when it does correct, regardless of how drastic the correction is, you'll be successful?
Yeah, great question. Not over leveraging. I think when you see a lot of these operators that are possibly getting an LTC of 80%, which is loan to cost, which is a bridge loan also that they're throwing in their repairs into it, and they're getting an 80% of that, and they only have 3 years of interest only, and then they have to buy their fourth and fifth year. And after that fifth year, you either have to sell or refinance. You can't do anything else.
Right.
That right there, that's pretty risky, because if the value's not there in 3 years, then you're going to have to wait out to that fourth and fifth year. And in that fifth year, if the value's not there, what happens? what are you going to do? So that's the biggest thing, is just make sure you don't over leverage it. And that's building strong connections and relationships and adding value to your lenders, and have a good 2 to 4 lenders that are in your pocket that you're very close with, where they can price quote everything. But you can go to them and say, look, this is what I'm going to need. I'm going to need a 75% LTV on this with a 7 to 10 year loan term. And it's those things right there with building the strong relationships, but it's not over leveraging. So I'm making sure when we underwrite these properties, I'm making sure our underwriter, who's extremely conservative, I'm making sure that we are underwriting it where we are not over leveraging, and that if no matter what happens in the next 3 to 5 years, that we're still able to either keep the property or sell the property for a profit, and our investors walk away happy.
I love it. So
Awesome.
making sure you buy right and making
Correct.
sure the numbers make sense.
Make money on the buy.
Make money on the buy. Now, we asked you this earlier, but we want to dive into it. And we love to ask our guests this type of a question. We are tech guys who invest. So we wanted to know, what is your favorite piece of tech or favorite type of video game?
Ooh, well, video game, I haven't played those, in years, but I remember playing Modern Warfare 2. I saw something, there's another Modern Warfare, but I do not play video games, and I rarely watch TV. If it is, it's documentaries. My favorite tech advice, or my favorite device, I would say would be my laptop and phone, because I love to work. So that would be, I love it. I take my laptop everywhere I go, and I make sure that, even if I'm going down the street, my laptop comes with me, just in case if I need to pop it up, take a look at a property, or check something that I can't do on my phone. So yeah, I would say those are the best devices. Well, Alexa's pretty good too. She's
Alexa, yeah.
She's my best friend.
Awesome. Well, Chris, it has been awesome having you on the show. We really appreciate you coming on and adding value to our listeners. This has been fantastic. Will you let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you?
Yes. Thank you so much, Adam and Kevin, for having me. I'm super excited that I was able to be on this evening. You can go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Chris_Salerno_. That right there, you'll see really my life, who I am as a person, and really can connect with me one-on-one. Best way to reach out is chris@qccapitalgroup.com, which is my email. You can also visit our website at qccapitalgroup.com.
Excellent. All right. Thanks again, Chris. We really enjoyed having you on.
Yes. Thank you so much.